The email reply extractor is a contribution on the ServiceNow Share site. To download, go to developer.servicenow.com, click on Share, and search for Email Reply Extractor. Let's look briefly at what it does. We'll start by looking at ServiceNow's out-of-box behavior. Joe, employee, sends an email to the help desk. He writes, "There is a problem with a 5 North printer. Come by my office and I can show you the issue." Joe clicks Send. A few minutes later, he receives an automated email from ServiceNow. It says, "An incident has been opened on your behalf." Joe hits the reply button and types, "P.S. I will be here until 4 o'clock today." He clicks Send. A few minutes later, Joe receives another email. Fred has picked up the ticket and written, "I will swing by around 2 o'clock." Notice, however, that this comment from Joe contains an embedded copy of the email to which Joe replied. Let's install the reply extractor and see how the behavior changes. We've installed the update set and loaded the file of reply separators. To activate the extractor, we need to modify our inbound action. This inbound action only handles incident tickets and only if the type is reply. Here is the JavaScript code which we have modified. In pink is the original code which we have commented out. In green is the replacement code which calls the extractor. Now we repeat the test just as before. This time, the added comment from Joe only contains what Joe typed. In ServiceNow, we can see the comments in the emails. Here is the second comment from Joe. Here is the email which created that comment. Click Show Email Details. Here is the email sent by Joe. Everything is here. This line was recognized as a reply separator. The comment only contains the text above the separator. If we go to System Policy Reply Separators, we can see the reply separators imported during the installation. All of the counts are 0 except this one from our recent test. If we open it, we can see the pattern that was detected in Joe's reply. It is a JavaScript regular expression. The description contains some examples of the types of things this pattern will match. At the bottom is a related list. Here is the email reply from Joe. Let's open it. We can see the body text, which is the full text of the email, and the reply, which is what was returned by the extractor. What the reply extractor is doing is not very complicated. If there is any intelligence at all, is in this pattern, this library of regular expressions, which you can of course customize based on what you observe in your environment. Working with regular expressions can be tricky. If we edit this list of patterns, we would like to have confidence that our changes are having the intended effect. What would give us that confidence? Well, suppose we could run this list of patterns against a really large database of actual emails sent by real people. If you have been using ServiceNow for a while, then you have such a database. They are the email replies that your users have been sending into ServiceNow since you started using it. Let's see how we can use the email replies that you have been receiving from your IT service customers to test this library of patterns. We will start by cloning our production instance down to our test instance. By default, in order to save space, clones do not include logs and email history. However, in this case, we need that email history to support our testing. So remember to modify those clone options before submitting the request. After the clone is complete, you want to make sure you have installed the reply extractor in your test environment. Then go to System Definition Schedule Jobs and search for a job named Reply Extractor Test Last 30 Days. This is an on-demand job. You would never run it on a schedule and you would never run it in production. It does several things. First, it deletes all the existing log files and resets all the counters. Then it sets some properties to make sure we have logging enabled for our test. And finally, it runs a back test. By default, it is set to look for any email replies received in the last 30 days. For less or more data, simply change the number in the last line, save the job, and click Execute Now. When the job starts, these counters in the right-hand column will start at 0 because they have all been reset. But then they will start to climb. After a few minutes, they will stop climbing because the job will have finished. I've done this a few times before, so I know that to process 15 to 20,000 emails, I need to go back about 90 days, and the job will run 5 to 10 minutes. Your results will vary based on your inbound email volume, so you should start with a small number of days and work your way up until you are comfortable with the amount of test data. For the purpose of testing, we can exclude logging based on the subject line by setting a reply extractor property. In this environment, we have a lot of change approvals, so we use this property to prevent them from being logged when we backtest. In production, approvals would be handled by a different inbound action, so the reply extractor would never even get called. After the job finishes, one of the first things to check is the results for the no match pattern. This is not an actual pattern. It is simply a place to log the extractor results if no other pattern was matched. A no match pattern result is not necessarily a problem. In most cases, if a no reply separator was detected, it was because the reply did not contain an embedded copy of the original email. This is extremely common for email clients on mobile devices such as tablets or smartphones. Even with a traditional email client, the sender could have deleted the embedded copy before clicking send. Here is the line for a normal pattern where we are receiving a large number of matches. When a message is processed by the extractor, there are four possible things that can happen. On the left side, we will log against the no match separator. If we did not find the separator, then the getReply function has no choice. It has to return the full body of the reply. This does not necessarily indicate a problem. As I mentioned before, this is normal behavior for mobile email clients. If the status is empty, it means that the message had no text. There could have been something else, a watermark, a file attachment, but the sender did not type any text, so there was no text to return. On the right side, we will log against the separator pattern that we matched. Match is a status for a successful extraction. We found the separator and returned the text above it. A status no content means that the reply separator was detected, but there was no text above the separator. There are several possibilities here. The sender could have clicked the reply button and then clicked send by accident before he had a chance to type anything. Or they could have replied with a file attachment, but no text. Or they could have typed their reply inside the body of the original message. Because we do not really know what happened in the case of no content, there are some properties you can set to control the behavior. If allow no content is false, then the function will return the full body of the text, the full body text of the message. This is essentially the behavior you would have gotten if you had never installed the reply extractor in the first place. If allow no content is true, then the function will return the no content message. The no content message can be blank, in which case there will be no comment added to the ticket, or, as in this example, we can see that the no content message has been set to reply text not detected in email, in square brackets. So that is the value that would be added as a comment. This provides an indication to users that they need to check the original email. In other words, they need to click Show Email Details and verify that part of the message was not lost. Version 1.3 of the reply extractor provides some new functions to allow greater customization of your inbound action. For example, there is a function to return a list of the file attachments. If the status is empty or no content, then you might want to update the comments or the work notes differently, depending on whether or not the sender attached a file. These functions are documented in more detail in the PDF documentation. There is also an interface for debugging the separator patterns against an individual email. Please take the time to download and review the PDF documentation. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Please download the email reply extractor from the ServiceNow Developer Share site and be sure to add a review and a rating.